Hey everybody. Today we're going to start to talk about SketchUp. Over the next week or two, we're going to be designing the exterior of our houses and in SketchUp, and then you're going to share those with me later on, which we'll talk about when we get there. A couple cool things. We're not really going to be able to work on the interior. At least I haven't figured out a way to do that yet. Um, there are some advantages and disadvantages to the SketchUp program right now. Main advantage is the fact that it's free and it's online and everybody with internet connection can get it. Um, but it's not nearly as powerful as it once was. SketchUp actually used to be like a really, really great program. Still is pretty good, but they've started charging for a lot of stuff at this point. So what's available in the free version is somewhat limited, so we're just going to have to work with what we have. Um, but if you go back to like my video before my PowerPoint, this is basically the exterior of the home that I'm designing here. Um, Cool thing about this program, a lot of cool things about this program is to create this is pretty simple to do. Um, we've got a lot going on here. The other thing that's really neat, and we'll talk more about this later on, but we can actually like turn shadows on and we can change like the time of day that the shadows are being cast. We also can change like um, the date throughout the year. So like this is the end of January. We can see that due to my overhang and stuff during January, I'm getting really great sun inside of the home throughout the day. Um, and then like if we go to some place during the summertime, like here, you can see that the shadows really like by my roof are being cast across and like preventing um, the house from heating up during the summertime. So this is like a really neat program. You can see, like as a matter of fact, you can kind of see how towards the afternoon hours, the shadows inside the house kind of grow. So right now, like over here, I have a 1.5 foot overhang, which I do think I'm going to keep overall because I like it aesthetically. But if I wanted to like push and pull this surface out, you can actually see how that affects the shadows inside the house and such. So um, we'll be talking a lot about this as we move on. The first thing we're going to talk about is just laying out the piece and or like the base and how to use the program. So I'm going to jump into a new one here and we'll get started with this. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about today is how you're going to actually access SketchUp. So if you just go to sketchup.com, you're going to come to this area here. And in the top right, there's a sign in button. And whether you've created an account yet or not, I don't think it's going to matter for you. You're going to go to sign in with Google. And you want to select your NCCS accounts. And we're going to go and we can try our SketchUp program. Okay, so um, here we go. So I guess I'm going through this here. So today's your lucky day. Start your free 30-day trial, which I think that it's just free. But anyways, we're going to say primary and secondary. We're going to get going. Um, and then it says here, are you, okay, so here's all that stuff I was talking about before. Are you in G Suite? Yes, we are. What's your role? In your case, you're a student. I'm an educator. It asks you for your email address. Put in the NCCS email address. And underneath, say, I agree. You don't have to have them send you the news. Okay, so it's loading up right now here. All right, so now that we're loaded here, I'm going to create a new file, and I want to start with a simple template that is feet in inches. All right, and the first thing I'm going to do here is just select this person who's in here, primarily for scale and such. I'm just going to delete them. Um, and a couple of things here when we start looking at this program, okay? When we look at our axes, the z-axis is in blue, the x-axis is in red, and the y-axis is in green. Those will be important to us later on as we go to start drawing our pieces, which honestly, like, this program's pretty simple, so, but you're gonna need to know those colors, all right? And that's really for like when we go to draw something. So for instance here, I'm gonna start off with my rectangle tool. Um, and I'm gonna start on my origin and I'm gonna pull this thing out. Um, this is basically saying that because it's blue, I'm drawing it in the X plane or the Z plane, I guess. Like I'm going to be able to pull it upwards after. And if I just click once and I let go and then I click again, it'll drop a box. And if I don't do anything else and I just start to type something, the width of mine is 16 feet. So I'm going to type 16 and then the foot symbol. You can see this down in the bottom right corner. Then I'm going to hit comma to go to the next. That was the first is my X. The next is going to be my Y here. So it's going to be 16 feet, and then mine is 12.5 feet deep. So make sure you include either the foot tick or it's going to default to inches. Okay, so I'm doing 16 feet, comma, 12.5 feet, comma, or yeah, not comma, but foot tick, and I'm going to hit enter. Okay, and that's just resized this box for me. Okay, so again, when I go to create this rectangle, I'm just going to click, I'm going to draw it out. Actually, I want to start on my origin. I'm going to draw it out, and I can either click now and put in my dimensions, or I can put in my dimensions first, and I can just say, okay, 16 feet, comma, 12.5 feet, enter, and I'll create that box. Another thing too to know is that right now my box is being drawn from the corner out. If you hit control, then it will draw one from the center out. All right. So like in order to switch from one type of triangle or rectangle rather to the next, you hit the control button and that's going to switch. Okay. And again, not that much. So we're going to start off with this box here. And in my case, when we go, if we think back to what I had before, I have what's called a shed roof. Okay. It's just going in one direction. So um, at the bottom of my shed roof, I want this thing to be a full 8 feet. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab the push-pull tool, and I'm going to bring this up. And again, if I let go and I type in 8 and then the feet tick, again, down here in the bottom, I can bring that up 8 feet. And I'm going to start working now like on my corners. So to change views, a couple ways we can do that. We can orbit down here, and we can click and we can move this around. We also can be in any other tool, and we can hold down the center like wheel on your mouse, and we can orbit around also. The other way that we can look at views is underneath of this, like looks like an action type system on a Hollywood movie scene. I don't really know why this is associated with views. It doesn't make much sense to me. But here we can look at like the front of the object. We can look at it isometrically. We can look at the multiple sides. We can look at the top. Okay, so we can look at a lot of different views here. We're going to start off for me looking at the side. And in my case, so again, if you're drawing just like a typical roof, bring this out, grab the move tool, drag this up to, whatever you basically want it to be, and you can create your house. I can undo that. I can also grab, in my case, my move tool, and I can bring the front up, okay? And I want to bring, in my case, I want the front wall to be 12 feet tall, so I'm going to extend this an extra 4 feet, because 8 plus 4 is 12. And that gets me my basic general shape of the house. So now we're going to start and add like my roof, which is a little bit more complicated because I want to add my overhangs. Okay, so again, if I come to my views and I look at like the side of my house, no, that's the front of my house. If I look at the side of my house, I'm going to grab my pencil tool or my line tool, and coming off of the front here, if I follow this pink line, that's an extension line. Okay, and I want my overhangs in the front of my particular house to be 3 feet tall, and I want my roof to be a foot thick because I'm going to put a lot of insulation in there, at least in theory. I'm going to hit escape to get out of this tool, and then I'm going to come back down here, I'm going to type 1.5 feet, enter. That's going to be the rest of my overhangs. And again, I'm going to come up 1 foot. And now I can connect these 2 dots. So when we go back to our isometric view at this point, we are going to push and pull my roof over, and I can actually extend it another 1.5 feet from there. And actually, let me walk you through what I just did there again. So I grabbed my push-pull tool. I'm going to grab that shape that I've created, a fully enclosed shape. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it to the face of my house, okay? So if we're looking at this thing from the front, you can see there that is. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to drag this out an additional 1.5 feet, okay? Now when we look at this thing from the front, you can see it's extended beyond. I'm going to grab this side, drag that out 1.5 feet as well. Again, when I look at this thing from the front, I now have my roof extended around. So a couple of things here. We've got some lines to clean up, so grab the eraser tool. And we'll clean up that line and that line. I'm going to hit shift just my center mouse wheel. And I can get rid of these 2 as well. And again, we can look at this into like a home view. All right, so I'm just going to save this right now as tiny home lesson. Okay, and now it's asking me, where do I want to save this thing to? You can either save it to like your an account, or you can save it to your Google Drive, which is honestly the easiest. When I come in, I'm going to go to my ARC2 folder. I'm going to go to my microhouse folder, and hold on 1 second. All right, I just realized I hit the open instead of the save. So we're going to click save. I'm going to name this Tiny Home. I'm going to save it inside there. Okay, so I'm saving that right now. Okay. So the main goal for right now is to get just your general shape set up. Okay, don't worry about putting in windows yet or doors. Just worry about getting your general shape, get your overhangs inside there, get the thing set up. And then next lesson, we're going to talk about putting some windows and doors in and starting to add color to the whole system. Okay. So once again, today we've talked about how to set up your accounts, the eraser tool, the pen tool, the rectangle tool, the push-pull tool, the rotate tool. We also talked about how to change our views and utilize these different pieces, okay, so that we can create our designs here, all right? So give that a go for today. Okay, bye-bye.